All right, welcome everybody. So this is the day after the big, Tesla event that happened last night. Both Scott Walter and I were there. Dr. Scott Walter is a two-time robotics company founder. And today, what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes here is focus specifically on the bots. What we saw last night, right? This is supposed to be Tesla going and becoming a robotics AI company. Did we see something new? They actually had a hand that was supposedly the third generation hand. So we're going to get Scott react to that and tell us what they saw. But there was at least 20 bots out there. And apparently, if you look at the side, they have numbers, and it went all the way up to 41. So we only
saw 48. I saw 48.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's take a look at this initial video here. You can see that this is...
And as you can see, we started off with someone...
Okay, so Herbert, are you still there? Because what we saw was the robots entering into the crowd. As you may have noticed, there were a lot of employees around there with the orange lanyards, and those were the robot guides to make sure the crowd didn't get too close as they came in. And we certainly were able to see that the march that came in. It's disappointed they didn't play the march.
Okay, I'm back now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes,
okay.
I can. Let's try that again.
I don't know what happened. I'm going to play the video.
And as you can see, we started off with someone in a robot suit, sort of down. And then we've progressed dramatically year after year.
Looking good, guys.
So if you extrapolate this, you're really going to have something spectacular, something that anyone could own. So you can have your own personal R2-D2 C3PO.
Soup. Take a picture.
And I think at scale, this would cost something like, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000. Probably less than a car, is my prediction, long term. Take us a minute to get to the long term. But fundamentally, at scale, the Optimus robot, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for, I think, probably $20,000 to $30,000 long term. So, and what can it do? It'll be able to do anything you want. So it can be a teacher, babysit your kids, it can walk your dogs, mow your lawn, get the groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever you can think of, it will do. And yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Come here, babe.
I think this will be the biggest
Come here.
ever.
Come here. Tesla Boomer Mama wants you. Woo. Come here.
Because I think everyone of the 8 million people on Earth,
come here, baby.
Want their Optimus buddy. And there's going to be something too. And then they'll be producing products and services. I predict actually provided we address super intelligence, 80% probability of good outcome.
You're talking?
Look on the right side. The cup is 80% full.
That makes sense.
The cost of products and services will decline dramatically.
Tune in to find out.
And basically anyone will be able to have any products and services they
Come
want.
here and help me,
It
Iron.
will be
And a
the
face
likes of
bump.
which people have not. No one has such a vision. It will be something
Air
special.
pump, air pump.
So
Love your hands.
now one of the things we wanted to show tonight was that Optimus is not a canned video. It's not walled off.
Come here.
The Optimus robots will walk among you. Please be nice to the Optimus robots. So you'll be able to walk right up to them.
Ask questions.
And
Someone told you your hands.
they'll serve drinks at the bar.
That's what someone told you. You can ask questions.
And you'll directly...
What do you...
I mean, it's a wild experience just to have humanoid robots, and they're there.
So far, I like the dance.
Oh, you like the dance? Let's do that.
So,
Yeah, I want to see
Dance.
that,
Play
let's
music.
party.
Ready?
Good job.
angles too. If you look at that, the gazebo over there, let's get the party started.
Okay, so we're back.
All right.
Well, my voice is like this because obviously we were partying last night. Apologize for that. But you know, we had 20 bots there. That video came from Tesla Boomer Mama. As you saw, she was right there, and you saw 20 of them walking out. They did go walking around right in front of the crowd. Everybody can walk up. We'll show you some of those videos, but it is teleoperated, and you are able to speak to it and talk to you back. But there was likely a human there that was speaking to you. Let's go that closer. But what was your reactions, Scott?
Okay, well, the first thing is we get to see the size of the fleet. So we had 20 marching out, and there were still others dispersed in other areas, like in the gazebo. There was probably another half dozen in there. And like I say, I was going around trying to look at the different numbers, and the highest number I saw was 48. And I didn't hear anyone else say that they saw a number beyond the 40s, so something like that. Doesn't mean they don't have more than that. They may still have a big supply, back in Palo Alto doing something else. So as far as the walking, I think it's about the same state that we probably saw in the videos a few months ago. So it was still not walking at full human speed. They're confident enough to bring it out in a crowd, but still making sure that you have these robot guides. So anyone with like a glowing orange ticket as a guest or lanyard as a guest, and the orange are basically the minders. So you can kind of tell who's allowed to get really close to the bottom now. Now, every now and then they would let you get a little bit closer to do some sort of interaction to get an idea what the movement was. But what you're seeing is happening in the telerobotic controls. They get two ways of being able to do it. One is that they're able to get the robot to move. And when they're doing that, they're not doing any hand action. Everything is that someone is saying, move forward, move backwards. And sometimes they're using flashlights to indicate where they wanted the bot to move forward or whether to turn around. And then when it was stationary, then they could go and start doing the overall movement. There was a little bit of movement in the legs, sometimes being able to crouch down a little bit, but not very far. And they would do some entertaining games amongst themselves. So we saw a couple of the Optimi doing it, but it was just like one operator interacting with another. So this is Gen 2. It's pure Gen 2. There, a lot of people when you say, "Oh, it's a Gen 3 hands," like no. Everything here is Gen 2. So we haven't really seen any changes to the hardware. We've just seen that increasing in the fleet, that confidence that we can bring it out into open, and they're not going to fall over. So definitely that's a big step. It was walking on flat ground, so I didn't have a chance to see whether it attempted to go up stairs or ramps or anything like that. And you had some that were walled off inside that gazebo, kind of like a little fishbowl that you could look at. And for the pouring of the beer, there was an Optimus that was behind an enclosed area there to make sure there wasn't any direct contact, but be able to pour beer.
I'm going to go ahead and play this video because you can actually hear the bot talking to you. But like you said, it's teleoperated.
It's an operator's voice, yes.
And I do have the video of the hand that was just by itself, so you can actually see.
Yes, that's probably the more interesting development, because remember, right now Gen 2 is an evolutionary dead end. They're not proceeding ahead with it, except for training and gathering data and understanding what's going on. But that's not going to be the bot that you're going to be seeing in the factory and the people.
Let's listen into this one.
He's a techno king.
Optimus can talk?
Yeah. He also does sign language.
Hey Optimus, what's up?
How's it going, man? Enjoying the party?
What do you think of the new Cybercab?
Cybercab looks amazing.
I know.
I'm trying to get a ride.
Dude, me too.
Okay, that's Omar and Joy. But Scott, when you hear the bot talking, I know it's a human talking to you, but they all sounded like the same guy. If you went to every single bot, they had the same voice. Did you notice that?
Yeah. They seem to be rather similar. So that was interesting, whether they were doing some sort of voice cloning or something like that to say that was there, but it was clearly being prompted by a human. And it was entertaining to see the interactions, especially when they would interact with themselves or other members of their crowd. The movement seemed to be sort of okay. In some areas it moved well, in other places it got a little bit restricted. But there was one thing that was kind of missing, and that when you listen really closely to the bot, you're not hearing really the sounds of the motors. In the past, it seemed like you could clearly hear that, So it was a lot quieter than I expected. And even walking, you didn't hear like a clopping sound or anything else. Yeah, there's a lot of other party music going on around there, but even up close, it seemed to be reasonably silent.
Let's go ahead and play this and tell me what we're looking at.
Okay, so I was able to see that hand, but from a distance, because there was a fenced-off area which was for VIPs only, and in there that hand was there, and so I could not get up really close to examine it myself. So this seems to be a video that was shot a lot closer, and we can see the tendon drives that are going on there, and it's rather interesting some of the degrees of freedom that have been added in. So around the pinky, you'll notice there seems to be an extra degree of freedom that almost allows the palm to collapse in there. And that's, let's say, that's not one that was on my bingo card or anyone's that you would put a degree of freedom there. I'm rather surprised. It looks like all the fingers are still the same length. So I was expecting the pinky to be a little bit shorter now that they're kind of moving that direction. So that's the same. But remember, this is still kind of in a prototype lab bench mode. Everyone's trying to count the degrees of freedom, and they can't quite get to 22. It's like either 21 or 23. We're not sure where it is, because that pinky throws us off. There seems to be this extra degree of freedom right down in that part, and that seems to almost drive it up. So the thumb has added an extra knuckle, so it's full 4 DOF, and all the other fingers are full 4 DOF that are there. So you have basically 4 times 5. That gives you 20 right there. And the other two are the movement that you have in the wrist. Now, if you look really closely, you can kind of sneakily see in there, they kind of still have the same design for being able to do the wrist. It's just that they move the actuators around. So it's a little bit behind. If you're looking really closely, you can begin to see it. But you can see where this carpal tunnel is, where they have these different sheaths of tendons. Now, these tendons, I guess you can say, are more like human-like tendons. They're not wires. In the past, you had an actuator with a wire that went up that was not in any kind of sheath. So it would just go over a couple of pulleys to get out to where it was supposed to be. Now you have to do that. So it's more like a bicycle cable. It's akin to that. You can see them in there, and you can see how they're kind of tied together to be able to give the control that's going around and then routing everything around. The thing that surprised me is that the initial count was, oh, they're going from currently 6 actuators probably to 7, because the hand is going to be doing this and can't do this. But there were some images that we saw of the hand actually like that. And that means you've got individual control of each of the abduction of those things. So that means you're going to at least 7 or 10 actuators. But when you start to count the number of tendons that are there, it's a much higher number than I was expecting. I think I ended up counting at least 11, which sort of shocked me. And maybe the 11th one is because of what's going on with the pinky. So again, it's like, wait a minute, maybe it's a 23 DOF hand. And now we have like one more degree of freedom hidden down there, and that is this roll that we're not really counting into the hand DOFs. The question is where you do it. So you saw that whole structure was rolling around, and you're kind of looking closely, and you are seeing these very simple things that are able to pull down. And I wonder if they've come up with a really good compact actuator. Almost the actuator that I'm looking for is something that can just make a really good pulling force on something and just release. Yeah. And it's very akin to a solenoid, but from all the research I've been able to do in solenoids, like people say, you just can't get the controller to do that. It's just the solenoid is more like an on-off thing, but they may have been able to come up with something that seemed to be compact, because all you really need to do is yank on that thing and yank on it with some sort of controlled force to get what you want, and then just release it back on up. It's hard to tell whether some of the tendons are to go the reverse direction. I think it's all like kind of pulling, and then it's able to pop it back up. So it's rather interesting. At first, I wasn't sure if that was actually the 23 DOF hand, because I wasn't expecting it to look like that.
No, it is. So what happened was
it is, yeah.
I actually was able to speak to a Tesla bot AI engineer, and I asked them a few questions. I spoke to them for 10 minutes long. First question I asked them was that, Elon deciding to move to this new forearm-based hand, that there are criticisms from other bot companies who are saying that is going to be a dead end for Tesla, because if you go that route, instead of doing the actuators in the hand, you lose the ability to go 90 degrees like this. I'm sorry if you can't see it, 90 degrees like that. You lose the ability to carry 50 pounds.
But it looks like they may be able to.
And you might break the tendons. But you can see from this design, they've solved it. What the Tesla AI robotics engineer told me is that just like what you would expect Elon to say, well, humans can do this. So if you look at this hand, they've solved it. Tesla solved this.
Yeah.
And then
What?
if you,
Yeah. They took sort of the original wrist design there, because if you look back, and they may have really made those actuators compact. So if we go, it's very hard to see, but if we look at the any of the images that we had of the Gen 2 Optimus, so there are these big black actuators off on the forearm that have the kind of these push-pull rods. So yeah, when you look really closely in the wrist, you see that they have made them small because they're sneakily back in there. So you have that same kind of wrist design, which is this kind of cardan joint where you have a pitch axis. If you look really closely in where the wrist is, you can see where the pitch axis is, and you can see where the yaw axis is in the new hand. And through there, they've done the routing, the carpal tunnel, where you get that little packaging, and you can see where they're taking these different tendon groups that they packaged together that are going off in different angles. So they got some over here. It's like, oh, we got to run that this group over here to the the index finger, and one to the middle finger, or some to that. So they're all somewhere else running on through, and they found the gap in there. But at the same time, they managed to look like economize the size of the actuators there. So the wrist movement is not being done through tendon control. It's still using those stiff push-pull rods in there, because they may have come up with a new novel linear actuator design that not only makes it compact for them to be able to do this, but potentially also on the tendons that they're going to have, that if you're able to come up with something that is very thin, you might put it in there. So it, at first it was hard to tell from the distance, because around, I think that part of it, they almost look like haunted mansions they were around there. So I thought, oh, maybe that's just like a Halloween prop.
No, it was good.
You'll see those things sometimes, and especially when you see all those what it looks like, oh, those are like, must be hydraulics or pneumatics, and then buried underneath there is like this really big box with all the stuff that you need to control it. But really close examination, you can see that the motors are there. It doesn't look like they're hidden underneath. It looks like they really are there in the forearm. Now the forearm seems to be maybe a little bit bulkier, but this is still a prototype, because they need to leave some room for those things to go around, and they're going to work with the packaging. I think they may be able to improve the packaging by moving some of it still down the forearm. I don't know how much they have between the elbow and up here, but it seems like they're only using like 1/3 of the forearm from what we're seeing there, where they could be using maybe a little bit more.
So first of all, 20 bots walking around. Everybody's interacting with them. They're walking pretty nicely. Yes, they were teleoperated. Here's the bot serving drinks. So this just shows you that if it can do this, you almost.
Hi, Optimus.
Hello. How are you doing?
Doing good. Which one has the most calories?
I don't really know.
No. Well, which one?
I think this one might have more calories.
Yeah. I'll do the other one then.
Sure.
Thank you, Optimus.
No problem. You enjoy it.
All the same calories. It's all the same.
That was Bradford Ferguson. So you see that the voice of this one is obviously a human, and it's obviously a different human than the previous ones, right? But they were out there, they're interacting with humans. So how did they do that, Scott? Because I had spoken to another humanoid bot company, and they said that they cannot allow the bots to walk freely amongst other people and serving drinks to them yet, until they get cobot certified, until they get certified that they're allowed to do that.
And it's Kafka-esque, because why can they not get cobot certification?
Yeah. So how did they do it though? Was it because
they need the certification, but what's the main reason why they can't get certification? There's no standard yet.
So how did Tesla do this? So how? Maybe it was
obviously from that, because it was behind there, it was kind of safe. There was no danger in it falling.
Well, that one, but all the other bots.
Oh, that's because they had the shepherds around there. I mean, there was a ring. Each Optimus had more security than Elon. Right? They were around there making sure you did not get close or bump into it, and that's part of the reason. And of course, they're trained for that, to make sure that the bot doesn't fall over. For the most part, I suspect that I didn't get a chance to interact with Optimus the way I was able to with Figure. And the one thing that we discovered with Figure, you could see in our video, I was able to take the arm, grab the arm, and move it around and do everything.
Yeah.
And this was in an unpowered mode. So you say, oh, that's okay, this unpowered mode. No, actually, the reality is when you have like a cobot that's powered, it can now start sensing what you're doing and is like actually easier to move around. So I was like back driving that thing when there was no current going around there. And it was like, oh, this is a lot easier to do. I thought the gearing was going to make it actually impossible. So if it was to try to put a stranglehold on me, I could just easily like, that would be absolutely no problem to be able to do it. So I suspect Optimus is probably the same, not being able to test it. Now, there may be a few, it could be that I can back drive this shoulder really easily, but the elbow, because of that linear mechanism, I don't know what the gear ratio is like on that. It might be that it becomes really stiff, but if you grab it, the whole thing goes around.
Yeah.
The biggest danger is just falling on something. So they had more than enough confidence. You can see there's two things that are going on, that they have some sort of joystick control to say, move forward, move left. And when it's doing that, the arms are just doing what they're supposed to be able to walk. And then when they're stationary, they're allowed to move the hands around. That's it. So the danger is if you try to combine the two of them, it could trip and fall over while trying to do something. So whenever they are moving, the robot is stationary and they're 100% confident it's probably not going to fall over at that point. And we're not aware there being any incident whatsoever of seeing an Optimus even stumbling at all. Now, they did make very, very sure that it was walking in the pavement area. And I myself, a few times, almost tripped because it was dark and there were like curbs and stuff like that. And every now and then I did the same thing. So I think they were making sure when they went around that the human didn't stumble and fall. So it was a safe area for it to operate in.
So even though that it was teleoperated, you saw the way it moved and walked. I thought that was much better than it ever has been, the way it moves and walks. So
yeah, it's a little bit smoother. Yeah, it's a little bit, and more or less, the teleoperation on that is like move forward, move back, and then it's deciding to take the steps, as opposed to the hands are moving. That is like being moved around by the operator to say that's what your hands are supposed to do.
Yeah. So what's your take now that you saw the bot? I'm much more optimistic about this because obviously we've seen the bots, but this was the first time we got to really get up and close to it. Okay, it's the real bot. This is not the mannequin that you see at the stores. Now it is teleoperated, but doesn't matter to me because it shows you that even the Gen 2, it can grab you a drink and hand the drink to you. I grab the drink and it kind of let go, right? Now, again, teleoperated, but it has the ability to do that. That's the whole point of teleoperation, is to just test to see the hardware's there. It looked like that everything's been done except for the forearm. Now you can see there's a demo, prototype there. Once they solve that, they put it in. This is ready for scale, is what I saw.
Yeah.
And now the AI part, the software. So this is the hardware part has been, as far as I'm concerned, solved. I want to ask you, the software part is what we need to now follow.
Yes.
But they demoed that through the AI that's in the FSD of the cars. So
yeah. So there's still we haven't seen that much on the software side. It really was a hardware demo more than anything else. I knew Gen 3 wouldn't be there because it's just not ready yet. I was a bit surprised they decided they wanted to reveal the Gen 3 hand already. I thought they would kind of keep that a little bit more under wraps for a longer period of time. The other thing that Elon said, and I don't think it's because he's been listening to something like that, but I've been a bit vocal lately, say, wait a minute, like there has been no one has actually seen it live. I mean, we keep on hearing that, like, some special people to get to go and look at it, but as far as like, real members of the public, and he said that in his statements that, you get to see that it's real.
Yeah.
So that's there. So, and there was clearly a pretty large fleet of it. So again, was it 20 that walked in? I think there's still 6 in the gazebo. So there might've been close to 30 there. Going around, and which means that they have a lot of teleoperators going on at the same time. But we're not going to see any refinements in this version. That they've taken it as far as they want to, and it's going to be in the next gen that they're going to be doing that a lot more. It's also going to be interesting to see how they do the robotic control, because now you're going to have full kind of movements of the hands. It's kind of exciting to finally see that. Would like to know a little bit more what was going on, but it's like at least we did get to see it and get pretty close. I think there was some limited range of motion in the arms that I think they are going to try to do, because it seemed that there was, I'm kind of trying to get the video. I asked the operator or Optimus, whatever, to touch his nose.
Yeah.
And he couldn't
Kind
get
of missed
close.
it a little bit.
Couldn't
Yeah.
get, well, yeah, it was like, it could be that the teleoperator just can't see anything because like, it's
Yeah,
really hard.
gotcha.
Like,
That's it.
the
That's
same way,
what
like touch your ears.
Yeah.
And it was like, really, it could only get in about that. And
Yeah.
from the video that I was able to see of everyone, of my interaction, it looked like they were getting into a locked up mode, that the elbow was like, it was coming around and suddenly it wasn't there, which means that they, need to get the shoulder action in there a little bit more to kind of get you around.
Mm-hmm.
And that could also be like discrepancies between the teleoperator input and what the bot is doing. So I've got some suspicions. There was one point there that kind of concerned me, that the bot was like doing one of these kind of dances, and I saw the hands like hit twice, go right on through. And I don't think the operator didn't feel that, because I think the operator's off. And if that happens, that means there is a big discrepancy between the teleoperation and what the bot is doing, and then that you're highly dependent upon what your eyes are seeing. So in other words, your proprioception is not the same as the proprioception of the bot, and that's what you're trying to get with the teleoperative control. Is that I'm saying that if I put my hands here, I expect Optimus's hands to be there, and if Optimus's hands are here, then I'm going to have to realize by looking at it, oh, that's wrong, and then I have to get my hands out a bit more. So that's what makes it awkward telerobotically to grab this, because your mind is telling you this is what I need to grab it, but the reality is I have to do that to kind of grab it, and that just feels kind of awkward. So it might be there's still some fine tuning they need to do in the teleoperation control.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate everybody. Today was to cover the bot progress, and we saw the Gen 3 22-degree hand freedom of hand. That's the one that we're waiting for. It's looking good. Looks like it's solved. I spoke specifically with a Tesla engineer on AI for quite a long time, and I'm much more bullish on the bot. And I feel like they're nailing down the hardware. It's going to be able to do what they say it's going to do. And now we're waiting to see if the AI is going to be able to catch up to it sometime next year. But would you now, with this Gen 3, create the 2,000 bots, 1,000 to 2,000 bots that Tesla's saying, Elon's saying that's going to have next year? I think it's going to happen. Any suggestions on your part whether or not they're going to get yet another iteration?
Oh, yeah. And I think it's been clear that they're shifting to a completely new version of the bot. So
no, I know Gen 3, but that should be done by the end of this year, right?
And that will be for internal use.
Yeah.
And they're probably thinking a lot about how do we manufacture a reasonably good number of it, but that's not going to be the one that they scale on. The one's going to be the Gen 4.
Not this one yet.
So there's and that the expectation, it's going to be refinements. It's going to be like going from Gen 1 to Gen 2.
Right.
A little bit of better packaging, figuring out what's the best way to make this thing go together. They have to see where are the reliability of the different components.
Okay.
And you can see my voice is shot too.
I know. We had a really good time last night. It was fun. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.